The cathedral was silent, save for the echo of heavy footsteps against the black stone floor. Shadows clung to the walls, twisting like living things under the dim glow of floating orbs. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest, faster than the ceremonial drums that had long since stopped. Her hand gripped the edge of her veil, damp from the cold and the tension that had been building for weeks. "Are you certain about this, Lyra?" whispered a voice behind her. She didn't turn, she couldn't, not yet. "I have to be," she said, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her own doubt. The human, her human, stood at the altar, a figure awkward and tense, draped in ceremonial white. His eyes, bright against the darkness, found hers, and for a brief moment everything else fell away. She could see his fear, his hope, his trust, and she realized how much she had risked to be here. The doors slammed shut with a deafening clang. Lyra's pulse skipped a beat. A ripple of unease ran through the assembled crowd of alien nobles, their exoskeletons glinting in the pale light. No one spoke. The Empress herself sat high above on the obsidian dais, her form elegant and terrifying. Her many eyes, golden and unblinking, followed Lyra like a predator. "You understand the laws you are breaking," the Empress's voice rolled across the cathedral like thunder contained in silk. "No human has ever been allowed to marry one of us. No human has ever been trusted with the bloodline. Are you prepared to bear the consequences?" Lyra swallowed hard. She had rehearsed the answer countless times, yet now it felt small, inadequate. "I am," she said, her voice firmer than she felt. A hush fell. Even the light seemed to dim, as if the cathedral itself were holding its breath. Then the Empress raised a hand, long fingers tipped in silver, and motioned forward. The ceremony began, not with song or flourish, but with a quiet, almost clinical ritual. The officiant, a towering creature with translucent skin revealing veins of luminescent blue, chanted in a language Lyra barely understood. She felt the energy in the room hum against her skin, the pulse of ancient power that had bound her ancestors to the throne. And then the moment came, the joining of hands. She reached for the human's hand, his warmth shocking in the cold darkness. He looked at her with an expression that made her chest tighten, a mixture of love, fear, and disbelief. She remembered the journey that had brought them here, the stolen glances across battlefields, the whispered promises aboard ships, the nights spent hiding in human quarters while the world of the stars raged around them. Then, just as their hands touched, the air shifted. A scream not quite human, not quite alien, ripped through the cathedral. Shadows swirled, thick and angry, and a figure dark, vast, and impossible rose from the back of the hall. Lyra felt her knees go weak. The crowd gasped in unison, the sound like a single, trembling heartbeat. "Stay behind me," the human said, stepping forward as if to shield her. His courage was blinding, a stark contrast to the fear coiling in Lyra's stomach. The creature's eyes, black as void and rimmed with fire, fixed on Lyra. "You do not belong here," it growled, a sound that seemed to scrape the walls themselves. "She is mine, she always was." Lyra felt a cold hand grip her heart. The darkness around them thickened, almost alive, whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. And then the Empress spoke again, her voice calm, unnerving in its authority. "Let her go," Lyra's mind screamed. "No, you cannot." But the Empress only tilted her head, her golden eyes gleaming with a knowledge that reached deep into the marrow of her bones. "She belongs where she chooses," the Empress said. "But you, Shadow, will learn what happens to those who challenge a union forged in the blood of stars and heart of humanity." The shadows recoiled as if struck, hissing and writhing in pain. The human pulled Lyra closer, their fingers entwined, and she felt a surge of something she hadn't expected, strength raw and unshakable. She was terrified, yes, but she was not alone. In that cathedral, in the pitch-black darkness of law, tradition, and fear, a human and an alien stood together. And for the first time, Lyra understood that some bonds were stronger than centuries of rule, stronger than the deepest shadows of the galaxy. The ceremony continued, but the shadows lingered like a warning. And somewhere high above, the Empress's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. The echoes of the cathedral had barely faded when Lyra and the human were escorted into a private chamber, the doors sealing with a resonant thud that made the air feel heavier. The shadows outside seemed to pulse, restless, as if the very darkness of the hall resented their defiance. Lyra sank into a chair, trembling. The human knelt beside her, his hand still holding hers as if letting go would undo reality itself. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice low, rough with worry. She nodded, though her body still quivered. "I am, I think, that thing it wanted me." He frowned, the shadows. Lyra shook her head. "Not just shadows, something alive, something that knew me before I even existed." Her words caught on a sob. "I've never felt fear like that, not even in battle." Before he could respond, the doors hissed open. The Empress entered, her presence filling the chamber like a storm contained. She walked slowly, her eyes scanning the room as though weighing every heartbeat. The human stiffened. Lyra felt a thrill of fear and awe at once. "You survived the ceremony," the Empress said, her voice soft but sharp enough to cut glass. "I feared you might crumble under the weight of tradition, or under what lurks beyond sight." Lyra swallowed. I didn't expect it to." "Destroy you?" the Empress finished. Her many eyes studied Lyra's face intently. "I understand more than you know, child, and I understand your bond with him." She gestured at the human. "He is unusual for your kind, stronger, braver, more attuned than most. That is why you could face what others could not." Lyra's brow furrowed. Why are you telling me this? Why me?" The Empress moved closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper, though her presence still dominated the chamber. "Because, Lyra, you must know what you have done. You have married a human, yes. A fragile, fleeting species by most standards. Yet, you have also wed a force that could tip the scales of this galaxy." The human blinked. "Tip the scales, what do you mean?" The Empress's gaze softened, not much, but enough for Lyra to feel a warmth in her chest. "Your marriage has disrupted centuries of expectation. The bloodline you carry, the lineage you will create, it holds something ancient. Something even we, the oldest of your species, have feared for eons." Lyra's hands trembled. "You mean he carries some secret power?" The Empress shook her head. "No, not him. You and your descendants. Humans have been underestimated for too long. You are weak in body, yes, but resilient in ways that even we cannot fully predict. And in this galaxy, resilience can become strength that rivals empires." The human leaned closer to Lyra, protective instinct flaring. "So, you're saying that my being with her could be dangerous?" "Dangerous to some, powerful for others," the Empress replied. "And there are those who will try to stop you, to tear apart what you have begun. You may not see them, but they are already moving." She stepped back, her multiple eyes glinting. "The shadow that attacked the ceremony, it is just the first. It senses the change you represent, and it fears you." Lyra's chest tightened. Fear, yes, but also a spark of determination. "Then we face it together." The Empress inclined her head, a rare acknowledgement. "Good. You will need courage beyond what your kind typically possesses. You will need to trust not only each other, but the truths you are only beginning to understand." Lyra's mind raced. Truths. What could possibly be more important than surviving a forbidden wedding, facing creatures that belong to nightmares, or living under the scrutiny of an Empress? "You will learn soon enough," the Empress said. "But first, you must leave the capital, go to the human worlds, hide, train, grow, prepare, for the darkness you have stirred will not rest." The human's hand tightened around hers. "Leave, but we just. Live," the Empress finished. "And remember, even in darkness, your light is stronger than you know." Lyra felt the weight of her new reality settle on her shoulders. The wedding had been only the beginning. A human and an alien married in defiance of eons-old law, a spark against the dark. But now, that spark had drawn attention they could not yet see, and the first shadow of war was creeping across the stars. She stood, gripping the human's hand. "Then we go together." The Empress's final words followed them to the door, echoing like both a blessing and a warning. "Do not underestimate yourselves. The galaxy is watching, and it will remember your courage or your failure." As the doors closed behind them, Lyra felt it, the faint pulse of something ancient, lingering in the shadows, waiting to see if a human and an alien could defy the impossible. The ship shook violently as it broke through the atmosphere of the human world. Lyra pressed against the viewport as the planet's blue and green surface rushed toward them. She had expected safety, quiet, a place to hide. Instead, the universe seemed intent on testing her resolve at every turn. The human gripped the controls, his knuckles white. The planet's storms are worse than the simulations. We might have to land in the eastern plains. Lyra nodded, gripping his arm. Then we do it together. Together, the word tasted heavy and hopeful all at once. She could feel the Empress's words echoing in her mind, the warnings about darkness, about enemies that already hunted them. And yet, for the first time since the wedding, she felt an unfamiliar sense of purpose. She and weren't just running, they were surviving, preparing, learning. The landing was rough. Thunder cracked across the skis as the ship skidded along jagged terrain, but they managed to touch down without tearing the hull apart. Once on the ground, Lyra stepped outside, feeling the alien weight of this human world's gravity settle around her shoulders. The air smelled different, warmer, denser than the space stations she'd grown up on. Grabbed her hand, guiding her toward a grove of twisted trees. "We need shelter before nightfall," he said. "We can't risk detection by the scouts the shadows will send." Shadows, the word made her heart quicken. She'd caught glimpses of the thing in the cathedral, that living darkness that had tried to take her. She had never known fear like that, and yet something in her had resisted it, something unyielding. Lyra found herself studying as he moved through the grove. Humans were fragile, yes, but he was clever, resourceful, capable of instinctively predicting dangers she could not even see. He was imperfect, but perfect for this challenge. They reached a small cave hidden among the trees. Lit a small flame, the flickering glow revealing the sweat on their faces and the tension in their bodies. Lyra sat down heavily, exhausted, but the human's steady presence reminded her that they could not falter. "I keep thinking about the Empress," Lyra admitted. "She knows something. She hinted at something ancient, something humans can't see." Frowned. "You mean like the shadows, or something else?" "I don't know," she said, "but it's connected to me, to us. That's why she warned us. That's why the shadow attacked the ceremony. I can feel it." Looked at her, then reached out and took her hand. "We've faced worse. We survived battles on ships with dying engines, asteroid fields, pirate ambushes. This, darkness, won't be any different. We survived together." Lyra's chest swelled with a warmth she hadn't expected. His confidence, his unwavering trust, it reminded her that humans had a strength the galaxy often overlooked. The very thing the Empress had alluded to, resilience. Suddenly, a rustling sound shattered the fragile peace. Lyra's hand went to her side, where she kept a small ceremonial blade, a token of her alien lineage. Stepped in front of her, scanning the tree line. Shadows moved unnaturally fast, coiling around the edges of their cave. "They're here," Lyra whispered, her heart hammering. The darkness surged forward, shapes more solid than smoke, more alive than wind. Drew a small plasma pistol, its soft hum filling the cave. "Stay close, don't run, remember resilience." Lyra raised her blade, feeling the energy from her alien heritage hum through her veins. She glanced at and nodded. Together, they stepped out, facing the first real challenge of their new life. The shadows recoiled slightly as they approached, almost sensing the bond between human and alien. Lyra's eyes flared with determination. She realized then that the Empress had not only seen their union, but had believed in it. Believed in the possibility that a human and an alien could stand against the darkness. The first strike came from the shadows, an attempt to split them apart. But Lyra moved with a single unit, blocking and striking, moving in ways neither human nor alien would have alone. The shadows hissed and twisted, but something in the air shifted. Their bond, their courage, was a force the shadows had not anticipated. When the fight ended, the forest was quiet again. Lyra's breathing was ragged, her blade slick with a dark residue that evaporated under the warmth of his hand. He smiled at her, tired but victorious. "You're stronger than I imagined," he said. Lyra shook her head, smiling despite exhaustion. "No, we're stronger together." And in that moment, standing in the storm-lashed forest of a human world, Lyra understood the first truth the Empress had tried to teach her. The galaxy feared humans not because they were weak, but because their hearts could not be measured, their courage could not be contained, and their bonds could not be broken. The shadows would come again, she knew it, but she also knew that together they could face whatever darkness awaited. And somewhere deep in the stars, the Empress watched, her golden eyes glinting, knowing that the first spark of hope had just been lit. The storm had passed, leaving the human world's plains washed in an eerie silver light. Lyra and trudged through the muddy ground, their senses sharpened by the attack in the forest. Even in the calm after the storm, the shadows lingered, not visible but felt, like cold fingers brushing against their bones. "We can't keep running," said, his voice low, almost hesitant. "At some point we need answers. If this shadow is following us, there must be a reason it's hunting you, hunting us." Lyra nodded. She had felt it too, a presence ancient and patient like it had been waiting for her. "The Empress said something about my descendants, about humans. Maybe it's tied to that." Frowned. "You mean, this has nothing to do with me?" Lyra shook her head. "No, you're important, yes, but I think the shadow wants what I carry, something in my bloodline, something old." Their journey led them to a ruined city, half buried in overgrowth, where the remnants of human colonies lay forgotten. The structures were crumbling, but Lyra sensed the pulse of history here. Memories etched into the stone, whispers of human courage long before the galaxy ever knew their species. "Why bring us here?" asked, scanning the ruins. "I don't know," Lyra admitted. She ran her fingers along a carved wall, feeling vibrations that weren't sound. Then a hollow voice, almost a whisper, echoed in her mind. "Lyra." She froze. The voice was not human, not alien. It was older, ancient, familiar. "Who's there?" she demanded. From the shadows of the crumbled temple stepped a figure, tall, cloaked in darkness, yet with eyes that burned with golden fire. Lyra's heart stuttered. She recognized it, the shadow from the cathedral, the being that had tried to take her. "You," growled, stepping in front of her. "Stay back." The shadow tilted its head. "I am not your enemy," it said, voice low and melodic like the hum of a dying star. "I have waited for you, Lyra of the dual bloodlines. You were always meant to find this place." Lyra's grip on her blade tightened. "Why? What do you want from me?" The shadow sighed, a sound like wind through stone. "I am a guardian of the old knowledge, the power humans carry unknowingly. Your union with him, the human, has awakened what was dormant. It is not your life I seek, but your understanding. You must learn, or you will destroy yourselves and countless worlds." Frowned. "Wait, you're saying this thing isn't trying to kill us?" "No," the shadow replied. "I only test, to see if you are worthy. The bloodline you carry, half human, half alien, has potential beyond the galaxy's measure, but with great potential comes great peril. You are hunted because others fear what you may become. Even those who seem benevolent may not survive the consequences of your rise." Lyra stepped closer, feeling a strange resonance in her chest. "Potential for what?" "To change the balance of power," the shadow said, eyes glowing brighter. "To unite species that have fought for, to wield a force no empire, no army, no shadow could contain. But you must understand it first. Your courage is your key, your bond with him, your shield. Together you may survive what is to come." Looked at her, eyes wide. "So all of this, the wedding, the Empress, the shadows, they were tests." Lyra swallowed hard. "I think the galaxy has been waiting for this, waiting for humans to show what we can do." The shadow's form shimmered. "You will not be alone, but you must act quickly. Others are watching. They do not wish for you to awaken this strength. Your union is the spark. They will try to snuff it out before it can ignite." Lyra's fingers brushed his hand. "Then we don't run anymore. We learn, we fight, we survive together." The shadow inclined its head. "Very well. But know this, the path ahead will demand everything from both of you. Fear will follow, enemies will rise, and the galaxy may question your right to exist. Yet, if you endure, if your bond holds, you may change the fate of more than your world. You may change the fate of all worlds." As it receded into the shadows, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air, Lyra felt a resolve settle over her like armor. The human at her side squeezed her hand, and she knew without a doubt that she would face whatever came next. The galaxy was no longer just a place of laws and empires. It was a battlefield for courage, for unity, for the impossible. And she were the spark in the darkness. The storm of shadows was only beginning. and they would not run. The human world's night was unnaturally quiet, a heavy darkness stretching across the plains like a shroud. Lyra and had spent the day studying the ruins, listening to the faint whispers of the old guardian, learning to feel the subtle currents of power that threaded through her bloodline. They thought they had a moment to breathe. They were wronged. A piercing shriek split the sky, followed by a tremor that shook the ground beneath their feet. Lyra's heart leapt as she grabbed Sarm. Shadows erupted from the horizon, dark forms crawling across the land like spilled ink. The storm from before had been nothing. This was an attack. "They've found us," said, his jaw tight. "The first of them, and they're coming fast." Lyra nodded, drawing her ceremonial blade. Its alien energy hummed faintly, responding to the bond she shared with. "Then we don't hide, we fight." The shadows advanced, writhing and alive, their forms shifting into monstrous shapes that logic. Each step they took swallowed light, leaving the air cold and oppressive. But Lyra and stood firm. Raised his plasma pistol, firing in short bursts. The shots scattered the shadows temporarily, but they reformed instantly, moving as one, relentless and intelligent. Lyra's blade cut through the darkness, leaving trails of light in its wake. "They're learning from us," she shouted. Eyes widened. "They adapt, keep moving." Together they ran across the plains, their movements synchronized in instinctive harmony. Fired while Lyra struck, a human and an alien moving as one. And yet the shadows pressed harder, trying to split them apart. Lyra felt something stir inside her, a pulse of raw, untrained power that surged through her veins. She instinctively extended it, and a wave of energy erupted from her blade, throwing the nearest shadows back. They hissed and recoiled, unnerved by the strength radiating from her. Stopped breathing hard. "Lyra, what did you just do?" I don't know," she admitted, her chest heaving. "It's like the energy in me, it's responding to you, to us." The shadows hesitated, sensing the bond between human and alien. Then, with a collective roar, they surged again, faster, stronger, more aggressive. One struck, knocking him to the ground. Lyra screamed and lunged, cutting through the shadow with a force that left her trembling. She caught as he fell, the residue of the darkness hissing away from their combined presence. "You okay?" she asked, voice tight. Nodded, but his hand brushed against hers, and he felt the hum of her power. "Yeah, but whatever this is, it's stronger than anything we've faced. We can't fight them like this forever." Lyra's eyes scanned the horizon. The shadows were regrouping, forming a massive, towering shape, tall, humanoid, and bristling with malice. Its eyes glowed red, fixed on her with an intelligence that chilled her to the bone. "They're leading," whispered. "This one, it knows you, feels your power." Lyra squared her shoulders, gripping his hand. "Then we face it, together, no matter what." The towering shadow advanced, its steps shaking the ground. Lyra raised her blade, feeling the pulse of alien and human energy merge in her chest. Mirrored her stance, pistol ready, their bond radiating outward like a beacon. The shadow hesitated, sensing the unbreakable link between them, a human courage it had not predicted. With a roar, the shadow struck, but Lyra met it head-on, energy flaring as her blade connected. Fired point-blank, the combined force of their attack sending the shadow staggering backward. For the first time, it paused, uncertain. Lyra's chest burned with exertion, but she realized something crucial. The shadows feared their unity. Their bond, human and alien, was stronger than the fear that had hunted them for centuries. Grabbed her, breath ragged. We did it. Somehow we held it back." Lyra nodded, feeling the exhaustion settle over her. "For now, but this is only the beginning. They'll come again stronger." The plains were silent once more, save for the soft hum of her power lingering in the air. Lyra and stood side by side, battered but unbroken, their hands clasped tightly. Somewhere deep in the galaxy, the Empress watched, her golden eyes gleaming. She knew the first spark had ignited, and that the true test of courage, love, and human resilience was only just beginning. The plains lay quiet once more, but the tension hung thick in the air. Lyra and had made a temporary camp, their bodies exhausted, but their minds racing. Every rustle of grass, every distant echo of wind made them flinch. The shadows weren't gone, they were waiting, watching, learning. Lyra sat cross-legged, her blade beside her, its energy still faintly pulsing. "We can't just fight blindly," she said, voice low. "There's something more, something the Empress and that shadow didn't fully explain." Nodded, leaning against a rock. "Then we find out. If this is about you, about humans, we need the truth before more of those things come." The air shimmered suddenly, and the shadow from the ruins appeared again, hovering silently above the grass. Lyra's hand went instinctively to her blade, but the shadow raised a single arm. "Peace," it intoned, voice like a distant memory of the stars. "I bring knowledge, not attack. It is time you understand why you are hunted and why you were chosen." Lyra and exchanged a glance, wary but listening. The shadow lowered itself, its form stabilizing into a more humanoid shape. Ago, the galaxy feared humans because they were unpredictable. Fragile bodies, yes, but hearts unbound by convention. Courage, resilience, love, these qualities could not be measured or contained. To keep the balance, we created guardians, shadows like myself. To test, to guide, to eliminate any who might disrupt the order. Lyra frowned. "So you're not our enemy." "Not entirely," the shadow admitted. "You are catalysts. The prophecy foretold a union, human and alien, bound in choice, in love. From this union, a force would awaken, one capable of bridging worlds, of uniting species that had fought for centuries. The shadows were meant to test you, prepare you, but others, less forgiving, will try to destroy you before you can awaken your full potential." His brow furrowed. "Awaken, what does that mean?" The shadow's many eyes glowed faintly. "It is the legacy humans carry. Strength born of adversity, adaptability that defies expectation, empathy that transcends species. When combined with your alien lineage, Lyra, this force becomes unprecedented. You will not only survive, together you will inspire. But first you must understand it. Only then can you control it, or it may consume you." Lyra felt a surge of emotion, fear, awe, and a strange hope. And the Empress, she knew all this. "She did," the shadow confirmed. "She has watched, waited, and guided when necessary, but even she cannot intervene directly. The galaxy must see the strength of humans for itself. You are the proof." Squeezed her hand. "Then we don't just survive. We become what they're waiting for. We fight for more than just ourselves." The shadow inclined its head. "Exactly. But be warned, the forces aligned against you will not relent. Ancient empires, jealous rulers, those who fear your bond, they will come. And some may be impossible to defeat. You must grow, and you must trust one another completely." Lyra stood, feeling the energy in her veins respond to the shadow's words. "Then we begin," she said, determination hardening in her chest. "We learn, we train, we awaken whatever this is, and we face whatever comes." The shadow drifted backward, fading into the night. Its parting words lingered. "The first strike was only a warning. Greater trials await. But the bond you share, the human courage and alien strength, that is the key. Together you are unstoppable." And Lyra sat in silence for a moment, the enormity of the revelation settling in. Humans, so often underestimated, carried the spark of resilience the galaxy had long ignored. And now, intertwined with alien strength, they were poised to defy centuries of expectation. Lyra looked at her hand, finding his. "Whatever comes next," she said, "we face it as one." Smiled a tired but fierce grin. "One heart, one bond, let them come." Above them, the stars shimmered like silent witnesses. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, ancient powers stirred, curious, wary. The spark had been lit, and the storm of destiny was gathering. The prophecy of human potential, long hidden, long underestimated, was about to unfold. And together, Lyra and would not just survive. They would change everything. The human world's horizon burned red as distant fires lit the skies. Lyra and stood on a ridge, overlooking a battlefield that stretched farther than the eye could see. Shadows poured from the mountains and forests, a living tide of darkness, and beyond them a fleet of alien warships hovered, their intent unmistakable, to end the Union before it could reshape the galaxy. Tightened his grip on Lyra's hand. This is it. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Lyra nodded, feeling the pulse of her alien bloodline intertwining with the raw, unyielding resilience of humanity. The shadow that had once threatened her now hovered nearby, silent but supportive. "I can feel it," she whispered. The power, it's waiting for us to claim it. The first wave of darkness surged forward. Massive forms twisted and lunged, their shrieks tearing through the air. Lyra raised her blade, energy flared around her bright as a star. Plasma pistol fired in synchronized rhythm with her strikes. Each blow, each shot was amplified by their bond, the human courage and alien strength flowing together into a force neither enemy nor universe had expected. The shadows faltered, they hissed and recoiled, sensing the unprecedented unity between the two. Lyra felt a heat in her chest, a light building inside her responding to his presence. She realized then what the Empress and the shadow had meant. The bond itself was a weapon. A massive shadow, larger than the rest, emerged from the tide. Its eyes burned crimson, fixated on Lyra. It moved with precision, intelligence, and malice. Stepped forward, pistol aimed, but Lyra held him back. Together, we move as one. The energy within her surged outward, forming a protective barrier around them. His fear, his hope, his trust flowed into the same shield. They were no longer separate. Human and alien, heart and bloodline, bond and courage merged into a singular force. The shadow struck. Its claws shredded the ground, tearing stone and dirt, but the combined light from Lyra and met it head-on. The clash shook the ridge, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Lyra's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "We are not afraid. We will not be broken." The words carried almost physically into the hearts of all who watched. The human fleet below, the alien warships above, even the remaining shadows hesitated. Something ancient, something cosmic, stirred in response. Lyra's blade glowed brighter, its pistol firing in perfect harmony. The shadow roared, its form beginning to waver under the intensity of their unity. Lyra felt her power peak, a light that no darkness could contain. She realized the truth. Humans were not weak, aliens were not invincible, and together courage could reshape worlds. With a final, resonating strike, the shadow disintegrated into motes of light. The tide of darkness faltered, breaking into smaller, weaker fragments, retreating into the void. The battlefield fell silent. Collapsed to his knees, breathless but alive. Lyra knelt beside him, holding his hand tightly. Around them, the air shimmered with the echoes of their victory. "We did it," whispered. Lyra shook her head, smiling through tears. "No, we did more than survive. We proved them wrong. The galaxy underestimated humans, and we just showed them why they never should again." Far above, the Empress watched, her golden eyes gleaming. She rose from her dais in the distant capital, a small smile of approval on her face. She had known it all along. Humans were the spark, and Lyra had been the flame. The stars themselves seemed to pulse in acknowledgement, and even the shadows, the ancient guardians, retreated not in defeat but in reverence. Looked at her awe and love in his eyes. "So, what now?" Lyra smiled, standing tall, her blade still glowing faintly. "Now we build together, not just for us but for everyone who believes they're too small, too fragile, too human. We've changed the rules of the galaxy, and this is only the beginning." The wind swept across the ridge, carrying the scent of victory, of hope, and of a future forged not by fear, but by courage, by unity, by the simple truth that even in darkness, humans could shine brighter than any star. And somewhere in the far reaches of the galaxy, a new era began, one where humans and aliens could stand side by side, bound not by law or fear, but by trust, love, and the strength that comes from the heart. Lyra squeezed his hand, looking at the horizon ablaze with stars. "We did this together." Nodded, "and nothing can stop us now." The galaxy would remember.